All right, here I am. This is the second half of this Dark Souls 3 review. Definitely don't start with this. Go back and watch part one. I'll have them in a playlist together. But yeah, so continuing on. I thought it was cool that they had multiple Firelink shrines added to the mystery and the lore of this game. This game really felt like it connected the entire Dark Souls universe together in a really cool way. I thought that was one of the highlights of this game. Yeah, apparently I don't have a warp to where Soul of Cinder is, so let me just run up from this bonfire here. And I guess I can go a little bit slower now. I don't have to talk quite so quick now that I've committed to doing a second part of this. So, yeah, I'm recording this on PS4, so I get 60 minutes per video. Just chugging some coffee here. So this spot, when I found out I was back at the Kiln of the First Flame here, I thought that was super cool. Seeing how it almost looks like we're at it reminds me of Final Fantasy VIII. Spoilers for Final Fantasy VIII, where towards the end of the game, all of time kind of gets mashed together. That's kind of what this looks like. Like, this could just be ruins, or it almost looks like the world is kind of like folding in on itself and multiple worlds are merging or something like that. So when I saw Kiln of the First Flame, I was like, damn, that's the end of fucking Dark Souls 1, isn't it? You fucking run up here, and it turns out this is the final boss. I figured after I fought this guy and beat him that it would unlock some farther part of the game. Because usually, like I've said, in these From Software games, you get to what they've been pointing out as the end of the game for the entire game, and you beat it and you find out, oh no, there's actually a little bit more. That didn't happen in this game. No big deal. This boss was emblematic of everything I liked and didn't like about this game. It was a pretty cool boss. I liked how... like I've said, I love the human-on-human encounters. I like fighting the different knights with their different movesets and their strategy. The fucking AI of the enemies in these games, and in this game, other than sometimes they're obviously a little bit dumb in that you can be like standing right beside them sometimes and they don't notice you. Other than that, I said several times throughout my let's play, these motherfuckers have the fucking battle tactics of Sun Tzu, especially when they're in a group together. Like, they know how to like send the shield guys up front and let the archers and the magicians stay to the back. They'll attack you in a desynchronized manner. When you're fighting wolves, like, they'll fucking have like ones come up close to you and circle you, and then when you circle to like follow them, your attack will miss, and then one will attack you from behind and shit. It's very impressive, the AI they have. And actually, let me bring this up too. I found, not just in this game, but in a lot of these games, I don't know if they have some kind of neural network AI going on with these bosses where they actually learn from you, but I feel like when I start to get a boss's pattern down and I start to figure out like a weakness to the boss and like a hole in its AI, it will patch up that hole and it will start like not allowing me to like do that anymore. I don't know if that's a real thing or if that's just a little bit of luck or that's like, you know, just my perception bias, in that it just seems that way to me and it's not really going that way. I don't know, but that's... the AI in these games is crazy. So anyway, this guy... first half of it, he just has the 4 different movesets. He's got the sword, he's got the spear, he's got the magician's staff, and then he's got the katana. I thought that was very cool, the way he's like... he's the Soul of Cinder, so obviously he's another link in the chain. He's almost like a former version of you, because whenever you link the flame, like Gwyn did the first time, or he ignited the flame, or however that went, you become the new, like, god of this world, the new lord, and you are the Soul of Cinder. And that's the player, right? You know, at the end of the first Dark Souls game, you're the one who does that, so you become part of that chain. I love that. I think that is super fucking cool. And this guy having the different movesets, so you're fighting the different forms that you could take. I thought it would have been cool if he could have even had more movesets, but then again, that would have pissed me off more because it would have just been more crazy movesets to learn. Again, some of the timings of the moves I just found very... like, particularly the sword. The sword one that he starts out with, I found, like, the custom combos. And, again, I've read that sometimes it's, like, positioning, where you are positioned relative to the enemy, that determines what attacks they use next. I don't know if it's all that, or if some of it is really random. They just decide what move to use next. it made it hard to punish. And like again, like even at this level of stamina I have now, I can only tank so many hits on shield. I know this shield doesn't like tank stamina that well, but I have like other way better shields with way more stability that can tank way more hits. But even still then, I just found like if I had done this as a no roll run and it had exclusively used my shield, I'll mention again, I should have mentioned this from the beginning. Whoops. I don't parry. I'm just not good at parrying. I've never been good at parrying, so I don't rely on it. I don't try and use it. I sprint, I walk to position, I shield, and I roll. Those are my defensive options that I use. Yeah, the spear phase I found was tough and brutal because it was quite powerful and he had some tricky delays, and he had the kind of thing where he would start to charge, excuse me, but he wouldn't be moving at all during the charge delay of his like spear thrust, so you would have to really start to like memorize the timings, which takes way longer than if you actually have some visual cue to watch. I found that with the spear one, but it wasn't too bad overall. The magic one, you could punish the crap out of him, except for the fact that he always put up the magic buff, where he would just keep getting the magic bolts around him, and you know how I feel about the fucking magic bolts. Just annoying. Just fucking annoying to deal with. So you're having to deal with his entire moveset, and then if he changes to a different moveset like the sword one and he's still got the magic bolts, I mean, you might as well just stand back and wait for the white magic bolt buff to disappear, because there's just too many fucking hitboxes coming at you. But yeah, the sword one, like, I just felt like throughout this game, not just this boss, but like I just really couldn't rely that much on my shield. I could like take one hit and I would have to like roll. I would have to roll at least half of the hits, which is fine. I don't mind rolling, but it was just such a huge emphasis. It really made shielding feel like very underpowered and rolling very overpowered, but difficult to do for the reasons that I described earlier in this review. Yeah, the magic phase, you had a ton of chances to get in and attack him, other than the magic bolts coming at you, which were like hard to dodge, and like they're just gonna come at you at random times. Sometimes they all come at you, sometimes only some of them come at you. Like I said, in the Aldrich boss is where I first brought up these magic bolts. There's just so many coming at you. I know with this guy it's only 5 coming at you at a time, but sometimes it's just like you can't dodge them all. That's how I felt. Like sometimes it just felt fucking impossible to dodge them all because they're just so spread out and they come at you from different angles and stuff. But yeah, in general, this still was a very cool idea for a boss. The second phase I found a lot easier than the first half once I finally started getting to it and learning the attacks. Especially because when he did the big combo of the super long flame sword with the big fire explosion at the end, that was always like a basic, like a guaranteed punish window. So as long as you played fairly conservatively, the second phase wasn't too hard. I loved during the second phase how they started like referencing the Gwyn Lord of Cinder like piano theme. I thought that was really cool, really like tied this all together. That's one of my favorite things about this game, was how much it tied this into Dark Souls 1 and the rest of the Dark Souls series. The other Dark Souls 2 reference that I loved was this like Drang armor that I would put on sometimes, depending on what I don't think there is a helmet, but the Drang armor, reference to Drang Lake Castle, thought that was really cool. Yeah, so and then the katana phase of this fight I found just like, oh my god, just really fucking hard to dodge. He would just chase you down. The fucking combo wouldn't end, or there would be very little gap between one attack to the next. That was another part of these everlasting combos, is like, even when it wasn't an everlasting combo, a lot of the time there was such a tiny gap between one combo till when they started the next attack. And a lot of the times, like, they would do an enormous attack, and then that wouldn't even end the combo. Like, not necessarily on this boss, but a lot of bosses I found, you know, they do some big giant slam, or even some regular enemies, they would do like a giant slam, a giant explosion, and that wouldn't even end the fucking combo. And the enemies just have unlimited stamina, and they just keep going and going and going like the Energizer Bunny. Not my favorite. But yeah, pretty cool final boss. I feel like I'm getting a little bit repetitive. As is natural. These are the things I really feel about this game. There was just a little bit too much chaos at all times, or at most times, that was just enough to bug the shit out of me, and to turn like a 10 repetition boss experience into like a 50 repetition boss experience. Because as I'm trying to figure out the patterns, I'm just getting caught by these fucking stupid little things that I found very chaotic or difficult to predict, or like it involved a little bit of luck to try and avoid. Apparently there was some smoldering demon enemy earlier in the game that I missed. I looked this up after I beat the game. I'm not going to bother going back for it. I don't care that much that I missed a boss. I think it's cool that there are optional things in these games. If I ever play through this game again, it'll give me something else to look forward to. This area, holy fuck. Another fucking beautiful looking area, but give me a fucking break on the fucking gank squads. Just this first part of this area. There's what, like 7-8 knights between like spear throwers, like flamethrower users, and then like sword and spear knights. And you basically have to fight them all at fucking once. It is a fucking lot to handle. Holy fucking shit, is it fucking brutal to handle. Yeah, again, the chaos of it. I don't find it fun doing that much. And then beyond this, you fall down the snow cliff, and then it's like wolves everywhere, and as soon as you aggro one wolf, it howls before you can kill it, and then there's 10 fucking wolves on you. It's just so much to deal with. And then there's the trees that can grab you and do their fucking huge damage grab fucking thing, or they're shooting the fucking frost breath at you as they're walking towards you, as you're dealing with the wolves, as you're dealing with more of those soldiers that you find at the top of the one hill, as you're dealing with the other trees that shoot like 20 magic bolts at you that home in on you and track you for like a quarter of a fucking kilometer. And then there's the giant wolves in 2 spots where this giant wolf comes, and the giant wolf is like hard enough to be a mini boss on its own, but it's always surrounded by like 5 other fucking wolves. It's too much chaos. How do you strategize around that? Unless you're just like a magic user and you can just run and throw magic bolts from afar, or lightning spears or something. Or if you're like a greatsword user that has like this giant AoE fucking slash attack where you can just like stun the fucking enemies over and over. I feel like this game it really is just like super hard mode with the spear and shield fucking paradigm. It was just a bit fucking much. The Corvian settlement, this area got a lot more manageable. The Snowy Mountain Pass was really fun. Corvian settlement, there was a couple enemies that were pretty bullshit, like the claw, crow, talon enemies. Those were more like, infinite combo enemies, but they were still kind of fun because it was just, a few of them here and there. Most of the enemies in this area were like quite easy to deal with. I thought the little village was fun. There was even a couple branching paths in that, and then you unlock the doors and you get shortcuts, and you get up on the roofs, and then you can fall into certain buildings and get hidden items. Thought that was quite cool. The one church at the end of the Corvian settlement where you like fall into the church and then there's 2 of those fucking crow guys on you, I thought was some fucking bullshit, but I mean, that was only an optional part of it, so that was not that big of a deal. And then you fight that Wilhelm guy who was protecting, I think he was protecting Sister Friede or one of the sisters. He was cool. You get to the Snowy Mountain Pass. This area I loved. Beautiful. You can basically fight most of the enemies in here one at a time. You start encountering those Millwood Knights towards the end. There was the one area where you can fall down into, where a bunch of the Millwood Knights come at you all at once. That's fine, because it happens to you once, and then you know not to fall down in there anymore, and you just come at it in a more strategic manner. You're exploring the different pathways. It's like all these intricate paths that all kind of interconnect, and you fight all these interesting knights that you can mostly pull 1-on-1 or 2-on-1. Really enjoyed it. Sister Friede. Sister Friede. Only 3-phase boss in the game. By the time I finished it, you know, I have a certain appreciation for this boss. It's definitely, as other people have referenced before, it's like the Millennia of this game. I've never played Bloodborne, but I've heard there's a similar boss in there. I can't remember what her name is. Mostly a lot of fun. Cool boss arena. Starts off as the thin little chapel, and then it gets to be this huge fucking huge room that's on fire. Oh, another thing in this game, the boss arenas, there's just so much to get caught up on. Like, I'm always getting caught up on fucking furniture that the enemies can just bash right through, but I get caught up on it, and I, like, you know, I think I'm going to be able to walk out of the way of an attack, but I get caught up on a piece of furniture. I know that's just part of these games. It just added... I think they should have tuned down the fucking chaos in this game. That's what bugged me the most. Again, with the darkness making it hard to see sometimes, and then also way too many visual elements, like making it hard for my eyes to track everything that's going on, particularly during the second phase of this fight, I thought was the worst. Just because it's the two fucking enemies. And you have to keep track of them both, and then the girl can warp away to heal, and then the huge dude on the chair is always chasing you down, slamming you with his giant fucking cup, shooting massive waves of flames at you from far away. It was just a bit much. By the time, after many hours, I did get it down to a bit of a science, but it was just a bit too much chaos. I hated the part where she went invisible at first until I figured it out that you could use your ears to figure out what direction she went in. Sometimes she would break furniture, that would tell you, sometimes she wouldn't. Once I figured out that you could approach her and then you'd be able to see her and hit her out of her attack, her like attack where she would sweep the fucking scythe at you and grab you with it, then I was a lot more okay with that part of it, and then I thought that was actually kind of a cool part. The second phase, she goes invisible and warps away to heal, but if you track her down, you can get a free backstab. Third phase, she goes invisible and then starts shooting the ice fucking, kind of ice columns at you, but if you track her down, again, you can fucking get some free hits on her. Third phase was really quite fine. It was just... You know, she did so much damage in the third phase, and there was a bunch of fucking moves to learn, so you just have to get to the first and second phases so many times, which were hard enough on their own, in order to learn the third phase. Once you learn the third phase, it was actually quite good, and if that was just a boss fight on its own, would have been a quite decent and fun boss fight. Really, it was the second phase that had the most janky bullshit in it, and I did get it. I don't know, it was fun, but really frustrating, and I just, like, I can't, you know, in retrospect, now that I'm done the game, it all feels good and groovy, and it's just like, yay, I accomplished it all. It makes me feel really good that I did it. I have some bragging rights, and now I can make this review, and, you know, I'm part of the club of people that have beaten Dark Souls 3. It's a cool thing. I really like that about these games, but I cannot just let myself forget about just how frustrated I was getting. And, like, sometimes frustration is a good frustration, and it makes you want to keep playing. Sometimes I really just wanted to quit this game, because I was so fucking angry about all the things I mentioned that... Like, for example, during the first phase of this fight, with her sweep thing, where she, like, drags her fucking scythe along the ground and then hooks you, and it's like a command grab, so you can't shield it, you have to fucking roll it at the right time. Sometimes she does that when she's not invisible, right? She goes into stance, she puts her fucking scythe behind her, and then she's either gonna... There's like one of three moves she can do out of that. The one where she starts dragging the scythe along the ground is not a fixed timing. She can basically start dragging it and then hit you right away, or she can drag it for basically any amount of time that she wants to. If you dodge early, she's going to scythe you, and you're gonna get grabbed, and if you don't have a ton of health, you are going to get one shot. And you can't shield it. You have to dodge it. If you wait until she actually starts, like she's dragging, and then she twitches and she starts the attack. If you wait until then, I don't think there's enough time to fucking dodge. Like, if there's some people out there maybe who are a lot younger than me who can dodge that, I'm happy for you. That attack comes out so fucking fast. I found the only way to reliably not get hit by that was just to literally run to the other side of the arena and just like pray that the attack comes out like before she fucking corners me, basically. That is such a good example of what I didn't like about a lot of the timings. It's either so fast that you have to panic dodge, and then usually when you do that, you're getting hit by like some delay attack because they hit you on wake up. Or if you wait until you see the enemy twitch, then you hit circle and it's too late. It's so too late because your dodge doesn't have iframes at the beginning of the roll animation. Because you're on an HD TV where there's input delay between you pressing the button and it, or not between you pressing the button, between when something's actually happening and when it's getting displayed on the screen because of the HD TV connection pipeline through the HDMI cable. Because the graphics are so fucking pushing the limits of the console you're playing on that there's always just enough processing power to output the graphics, and sometimes there's not quite enough power to output the graphics because of the occasional missed inputs. Oh, let's talk about the fucking buffer. Dude, how many times did I shield a fucking attack? So I'm holding my shield, I mean to roll, but I didn't hit the button quite in time for the reasons I'm talking about. I get hit, so I shield tank the attack, and then my roll gets buffered. So I have to shield the attack, killing a bunch of my stamina, which I wasn't intending for. Fine, I missed the timing, because the timings are just crazy precise for a lot of these attacks, and for the technical reasons I brought up. Then my roll gets buffered, so after I shield, I roll, and that usually puts me in perfect timing to get hit on wake up by the next attack, or by 2 attacks later in the combo. That killed me a lot too. And then going back to this graphical thing and them pushing the graphics too far, aside from the visual distraction, which as I've said, just made it hard for me to look at sometimes, I believe that's why the lock-on is broken. Why when enemies, and it wasn't just limited to Prince Lothian's warp. When he warps, too far away from, like basically directly behind you, it would break it. And the Storm Drake, that like whips its head around a lot, where it would just break your fucking lock-on because it forces the camera to rotate too quickly, basically, is what's going on. That also, in my mind, and I explained this throughout my Let's Play, I'll just explain it briefly here, that also has to do with them pushing the graphics too far, in my opinion. Because what's happening, in my opinion, is they're trying to avoid lag spikes. And if you move the camera too fast, because of, what do they call that, occlusion? Whatever it is where, like, whatever I'm looking at right now on screen, that's all that's being calculated. Like, all this stuff is being kept in memory, but it's not the actual physics of how it gets displayed moment to moment with those cinders falling and the snow and the fire moving and all that, is not, and the lighting too. It's not being calculated if I'm not looking at it. The real-time display of it is not being calculated. So if I'm like this, and say the very next frame or only a couple frames later it needs to display this, it can't handle it. I think that's why they made it so that your lock-on breaks if the camera whips too fast, because it would create too many lag spikes, because it would just have too much shit to calculate too quickly and it wouldn't be able to do it. So it would either create a lag spike or it would create a situation where there's pop-in. and shit's just like popping in on screen at, in the first 60 frames or something after you do one of these camera whips, or 30 frames or 15 frames. I think that's why. That's my guess. So that's another reason for me to fucking be bitter about this obsession that people have with graphics, and everything's got to just look the most amazing, even if it's in a really highly strategic game like this, where it's all about the strategic fucking gameplay, or it's a lot about the strategic gameplay. When the graphics and the high tech of it is interfering with the ability of the gameplay to be strategic. I mean, they didn't tune down the precision of this game. They made the game more precise than any of the ones that came before it. I had not even close to the same level of problems with the bosses in Dark Souls 2. Like, the bosses in Dark Souls 2 were fucking great for the most part. Very little issues, not nearly as precise as this game. And, it's fine to make it harder for the players. A lot of the players of these games are really fucking good. But it just went a bit too far, combined with the chaos that I've mentioned, the element of chaos thrown into most of the encounters in this game, or a lot of them, and the technical aspect of it. It was just a bit fucking much, in my opinion. So let's go to the Dreg Heap. I quite enjoyed this area. Where should I warp to? Let's just warp straight to the Demon Prince. The Dreg Heap I thought was cool. I thought it was fun to explore. You keep like falling after ledge after ledge. There was a lot of like super multi-enemy encounters, especially again, the chaos. Those fucking like fallen angel enemies that are floating around in the fucking sky that maybe if you're using a bow and arrow or magic you could kill early. I only found the ways to kill the two of them in the ruined Earthen Peak area, where you kill those like weird looking enemies, like Resident Evil-esque enemies, and the angel in the sky dies. So it was cool that you could eventually take them out, but it's just like so much shit coming at you. You're fighting a bunch of enemies at once, and then you also have those fucking angels shooting at you. It was just a bit much. I still did enjoy the area, especially the throwback to the Earthen Peak, which was one of the cooler areas from Dark Souls 2. I thought that was very cool. There was a poison swamp, but it wasn't too hard to deal with. I thought it was pretty neat. It had those poison enemies from Dark Souls 2 roaming around in it. Pretty cool. You fought one of those desert pyromancers from the Earthen Peak. I thought that was pretty sweet. It took me a while. Like, it took me like 2 explorations of the area to even figure out how to get to the Demon Prince boss. I'm glad I did figure it out on my own, so that was cool. So really no major complaints about the area, other than, again, the turd in the punch bowl was those fucking angel enemies just shooting you. While you're trying to deal with everything else, you're like looking for a hiding spot, and they're just blasting you. Oh my god. I felt... I like the tension of these games. Like I said, I play these games like the old Resident Evil games, where you're going slowly and steadily, methodically forward through the areas. It feels tense. You never know when something's going to come out at you. Something can just kill you from right off the bat. You have to conserve ammo. And in this game, it's really just you have to conserve your movement and not commit to attacks because of the long attack animations. You can't commit to an attack that's going to get you counterattacked and that's not going to hurt an enemy or stun lock an enemy. But I found there was too much tension in this game for all the reasons I've mentioned, particularly the chaos element, where there's just always a bit too much going on. There's just a bit more going on at any given time than a person can reasonably deal with, I find. Unless you go online and look up all the OP strategies that all of, like, the top players coming together and sharing strategies. They craft these, like, super ultimate best practices for any given area. If you want to wait until the game is several months old and then go online and look up that stuff, if that's your fucking playstyle, I mean, that's not my playstyle. I want to figure it out on my own. I played this game all online. I want to do it on my own. I enjoy that. And I found a lot of it was just a bit too fucking unreasonable. Like, I was not able to do that in a quick or efficient manner, and I was just always very tense. I felt like the game designers were just trying to fucking stick it to me, which I think is insulting, considering I'm paying money to play your game. I want a challenge, but I want a way to reasonably overcome it. And here's another boss here. where I found that very difficult because of the first phase. Each individual demon on its own in the first phase was not that bad. They would switch up, so one would be in fire aggressive mode while the other was in poison, and vice versa. But just having to fight the two of them at once, I know that's a common theme throughout these games, but let me give you an example. Obviously, the first example that a lot of people know about, obviously there was the one enemy in the tower, the boss in the Tower of Latria, that made you fight two of them at once after you get the first boss's health down halfway. A lot of people haven't even played Demon Souls, but Dark Souls, the twin gargoyles to get the first spell of awakening. Iconic boss, but they're kind of more manageable. They don't have crazy huge movesets. They don't have crazy enormous fucking hitboxes. They're not like insanely fast. They're manageable. Even the throwback to that boss in Dark Souls 2, the optional boss in I think it was in Belfry Luna, where you fight like 6 gargoyles at once. I found that 6 gargoyle battle, I beat it my first try. Because it was more manageable. It was like a kung fu fight where 1 or 2 will come forward and attack you, and the other ones will sit back, and they'll do some flamethrower shit, and they'll have like a few, reasonably timed attacks here and there. But you can manage it. This I found so fucking unmanageable. Where, like, once I got one of the demons dead, the other demon I could get through like fucking nothing. But with both of them at once, sometimes you just get unlucky and they're both attacking you at the same time. Or they're both attacking you at the same time but desynchronized. So it's like one hitbox and then it ends with its tiny fucking break between attacks where you have your chance to fit in your one attack. But then the other demon just happens to be desynchronized, so it's putting out a giant hitbox while the first one is on its cooldown. And then back and forth. So you're like, okay, am I gonna just run away and stand on the other side of the fucking arena? For how long until you guys decide to get into a pattern where I can actually, like, deal with you? And then the second phase was fucking crazy. I lost against this boss so many fucking times because I would get to the second phase and I kept killing a certain demon first. I found out later through having to go on Game FAQs and ask people for hints, and then a few people told me, oh yeah, and even somebody in my comment section eventually told me, kill the other demon first, and then the second phase will have a different moveset. So, of the 2 movesets, I wound up getting the fucking meteor moveset over and over. That fucking meteor shower attack, I don't know how to dodge it to this day. I managed to dodge it by luck a few times, barely. I mean, that thing was so fucking crazy. If you get as far away from it as possible across the arena when he summons it, still, there's like 15-20 meteors coming at you. There's some of this rubble throughout the arena, but the rubble gets destroyed, and so, like, this piece of rubble will block 1 meteor coming at you, and then there's still like another 14 coming at you. They home in on you like crazy. So if you're watching it come at you running left to right, you can see when you change direction, they all are homing in on you like they're fucking cruise missiles. They make an enormous fucking giant collective hitbox when they come down to slam onto you. You roll at the beginning of it, and you still, most of the time when you wake up, you just get killed. And then a few times I would have a sliver of health, and then they've created a big red explosion around me, plus kicked up a bunch of dust, and then the boss, while they're coming at me, the boss is already charging me down. So if the boss, just does certain attacks quick enough, it can kill me before, say I wake up, I have a sliver of health, somehow I've managed to luckily stay alive, but then the boss, I'm just having to panic, roll over and over as I'm waiting for the dust to settle so I can actually see what's going on and where the boss is. And then the boss is, if it's attacking me too quickly and I just happen to not luckily be rolling at the right time, I'm dead anyway before I could get to heal. And then, the boss's health bar is long enough that you have to survive that meteor attack several times because he just does it periodically. I couldn't get it. I could only get that boss maybe to about half its health bar. Once I realized that I could just kill the other one first, and I would get a different second phase. That one was way more manageable. I killed it after 2 or 3 tries. The laser attack was very manageable that it did instead of the meteor. No problemo. So that was some bullshit. I don't know what's with that meteor attack. After I put up this review, I'm gonna watch reviews. I'm gonna figure out how people dodge that meteor attack, because I know people do these crazy challenge level 1 runs without even dodging or sprinting or shielding or parrying or anything. I'm sure it's possible, but you shouldn't have to like be like a top tier fucking scientist player combining with the knowledge of 20 other fucking top tier scientist players to figure out how to just dodge a fucking attack. I know it's DLC, I know it's supposed to be super hard, but still bullshit. Oh goddamn, let's warp here. This first part of this area was fucking ridiculous with the fucking million archers, and it's not like the Tower of Latria, like, wall of arrows that comes at you in the one part, where it shoots, like, 3 sets of, like, 20 arrows at you, but all the arrows come at you at once so you can dodge them with good timing. Here, there's the giant sorcerer at the end that summons all the fucking orange fucking soldiers of the past that you can't attack, so they're there, and they're just gonna come, like, periodically over and over. And there's so many of them that even though each individual archer does... Oh, there they are. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and then they disappear. But there's so many of them that, like, if I dodge the first arrow when it's about to hit me with perfect timing, still on wake up, the arrow of the farthest away enemy is still gonna hit me. So yes, there are some graves to hide behind, and then you get your way to the fucking end, and then you gotta fucking kill the guy while there's fucking those archers still attacking you, and while he's also summoning the other orange guy with the big hammer to attack you, while he himself is like slamming down on you and attacking you. Didn't love that. Really didn't love that. And I especially didn't love that once you killed him, like, he still comes back. Like, it's not like I worked through all that and now I get to freely explore this area. No, you kill him and then you freely explore the area. Don't get killed. Don't accidentally die while you're exploring the area, because otherwise you're going to have to do it all over again. Not my favorite. It kind of a cool idea, but I just wish the arrows coming at you were a little more synchronized so you actually had a reliable method of dodging them. Found it a bit crazy. Dude, this bonfire to this bonfire is like it's a huge gauntlet of fucking enemies. There's the imps, that half of them are the ones where if you stand too close to them, then your curse builds up, basically death blight, and if that meter builds up, which doesn't take that long, you just insta-die, okay? There's the ringed knights, the ones with the armor that I'm wearing right now. Those enemies were fine. The ones that you fight one at a time, like, that was reasonable, that was manageable, those were fun fights. Still pretty tough, but I like the knights. I think they have reasonable movesets. I think they're fun to fight. And then you get to the big city, like the city where the street goes down the hill. And there's what? Those giant fucking guys, there's like 6 of them. So the way they want to get you to fight them is by plunging onto their head and doing the one-hit kills. The problem is, there's so much to that area. There's so many hard battles. There's so many encounters with multiple imps. There's so many of those ringed knights. And then, like, you get out into the swamp, and the next bonfire isn't even obvious where it is. It's, like, tucked off in a room to the side. They should have made the next bonfire more obvious, more out in the open, so that once you've earned your way through all that, because the first time I did, like, make my way up onto the bridge, fall onto the big guy, kill him, slowly kill all the other guys, make my way around, like, barely survive, but make it. But then I never found the bonfire, and I went up to the room with the one invader with the huge hammer, and I got killed by him. And it was like, I'm not doing that all again. So then it forces you to just fucking run past everybody. So that was another area like the beginning of Irithyll, where it just felt like they were really like just making it too oppressive, too long of a gap between bonfires with too many fucking crazy hard enemies that you have to just be so slow and methodical, and it's not fun to do that multiple times. You really want it so where when you get it, you get your reward. You get your shortcut or your bonfire, and then you're set up. When I did go back and beat that guy, that invader at the top with the hammer, Leto, right, was his name? I couldn't find a way safely back down from there. I wound up going back towards the beginning of the swamp and like trying to fall back down, like near where the ladder was, where you climbed up to get up there. And I died from the fall. So I didn't know how to safely get off of there. So even if I had killed him the first time, I would have not... Apparently, I don't know, I'm sure there was something I must have missed, but I don't know, that was a bit crazy. That I couldn't figure out a safe way to get back down from there. The swamp itself, I thought was good. Didn't mind it. There were those like magic, like medium-sized locusts that were a bit hard to fight, and there were several groups of multiple of them, but they were kind of manageable. I thought it was cool that they put another iteration of the Dragon Slayer armor at the end of the swamp for you to fight. I thought that was cool. And then from there, you wind up... I'll do a little bit of warping. I guess I should go grab my fucking souls, just in case I ever pick up this file again. From there... Yeah, from there you go through this area, which I thought this area was quite cool. You get past those ringed knights that are all on that fucking church that's kind of half sunken in the swamp. And then you get over to here where you're like running along the cliffside as Midir is like breathing fire at you. And then you wind up inside of this fucking place. I thought this was a cool little exploration. I wish this area would have been its own whole big-ass castle. I think that would have been sweet. I really like this, like, the inner tower. That's where I am, right? Yeah. The inside of this tower where you're circling around, and it's kind of confusing. All the areas kind of look like one another, and you're not really sure what level you're on. You initially, like, fall down... Like, you fall down this fucking thing over here. You're like, oh god, I was chasing after the crystal lizard, and now I fell down, and where the fuck am I? Thought that was cool. No complaints about that. Thought that was pretty sweet. You get to the end of here, and you fight Midir. I thought that was a cool fight. He runs away at the end. You get nothing for it, but at least he's gone. I thought that was pretty cool. Not a horrible boss fight there. Or a little, like, mini-boss, I guess you could say. You get to the church, where you fight the Spears of the Church, who are defending Princess Filianor. I didn't find this out until kind of looking it up after. Or not looking it up, but just kind of, like, seeing... I don't know, I just kind of happened to notice it, maybe on a thumbnail or something like that. I picked up on the fact that the Spears of the Church is the multiplayer boss from this game, kind of like the old monk from at the top of the Tower of Latria from Demon Souls, or like the Mirror Knight from Dark Souls 2. I don't know if there was one of those fights in Dark Souls 1 where like it'll call in... if you're online, it'll call in invaders to be the boss, where you actually fight another human player as the boss in this church here. I thought that was really cool. That boss was quite easy. I fought it offline, and I think I beat it first try. It wasn't that hard. But cool idea. Dark Eater Midir. This was an optional boss. This is actually the boss I fought last. This was cool. This reminded me of a Monster Hunter boss, honestly. Like a giant dragon. It reminded me of one of the, like Elder Dragons from Monster Hunter, maybe like a Latrion or something like that. Just a big-ass dragon with big-ass hitboxes, big flames. Like, you want to kind of stay underneath it, but then he has ways to attack you down there. It's all, like, focused on, like, recognizing his giant fucking big swiping moves and dodging through them. Really enjoyed it. Other than other than this was the other boss in the game that I had to switch off of my poking weapon. I had to switch to Halberd because in spite of the fact that he's an enormous dragon, being on the ground, like, and only being able to hit his face or his fucking legs or his tail, like, I was missing more than 50% of the time with my spear. I was like, just like, I mean, you can watch it. It's right at the end of my Let's Play. It's in the 140 episodes. I would just miss way more than I would hit, and I had to switch over to this, which had like the sweeping, like especially that or that just gives you a way bigger chance of actually hitting. So that was my issue with that boss, is like he has these fucking hitboxes that are like, you know, bigger than fucking God himself, and then like I am just missing and missing and missing, and you really couldn't stay locked onto that boss because you could only lock onto the head. And then if you stay locked onto the head, like, oh, your camera's just all over the place. Sometimes the lock-on breaks. Anyway, it really was a boss to be fought not locked on, I found. And then, so you're having to manually aim, and I just found it insanely hard to fucking manually aim with my spear. So I had to switch over to this. Once I switched over to this, boss went pretty well. Second phase wasn't that much harder than the first phase. All in all, pretty fun boss. Quite enjoyed it. But yeah, just the hitboxes really fucked with me. And then Slave Knight Gale. This boss I actually enjoyed a lot. This was like the boss that I felt most rewarded me for being a shield and spear user, honestly. The first phase was not that hard. It was actually quite easy. He gave you a fair number of like clear, like big punish windows, like his jump attacks where he would slam down on you, easy to recognize and dodge, and then you get a big punish after. His attack where he does like his like lunge at you where he's glowing red and he lunges at you, and if he hits you it's like a command grab, easy to dodge, and then you get a big punish after. Really no major complaints about that at all. He has a lot of health, so it took a bit to get through, but not a big deal. And then you come down here for phase 2, and now every time he hits you with his sword, his cape also whips around and hits you again. So it made it, you had to get really precise with your dodge timing, because if you dodge, you know, too early at all, then the cape is going to whip you. But this is where my shield came in handy. I was able to shield a lot of those hits and just shield poke him. This boss felt like the vindication of my shield poking strategy. It's like, this strategy didn't work for a lot of the game. Even a lot of the regular enemies, I felt like I was getting fucked for shield poking. Like, I would not be able to fucking poise through fuck all. The enemies would interrupt my poke attacks. I'd be locked onto an enemy, and if it was like a thin enemy, like a human, a lot of the time I would poke and it would hit beside him, but not actually hit him, so I'd miss. Fucking... the enemies would blast through my stamina so fucking quickly and just like blast away my shield and then combo me to death. But this boss, fucking shield poke. It was really fucking good. Yeah, it just worked well. Like, I was able to shield enough damage. I think I might have been using a heavier shield than this, but I was able to shield enough damage where the chip damage he was doing to me wasn't that bad. Yeah, he must have been using like dark damage or something like that with that red shit. I assumed it was dark damage because in the third phase he makes like red skulls, so I was assuming it was dark damage. Never did figure that out, but yeah, not too bad. Good humanoid enemy. I liked the way, like, I loved when you approach Princess Filianor and you touch the Dark Soul, and then like you go to this like way fast forwarded part of time where sand has covered everything. I thought that was really badass. Yeah, the Ringed City, there was a lot good about the Ringed City, but again, just certain the things I described. Just certain things bothered me. Some parts of it I thought were really cool, some parts of it I thought were really not so cool. This fucking armor is badass as hell, looks so awesome, especially when you have an Ember on. I loved the fact that when you beat a boss or when you use this item, you get embered up, and you have like the embers on you. Aside from the like I mentioned at the beginning of this review, the theme of ash throughout the game, the other major theme was like cinder and ember. So the fact that you can have these like glowing embers on you, I just thought was like super cool touch. Looked really cool. Yeah, and then the third phase of this boss I found was like not that much harder than the second phase. He had that kind of big explosion of red skulls attack, but overall it was just like a little bit harder than the second phase. But it was like a good human enemy moveset. I learned to figure out how to dodge his attacks, and a lot of them I could just shield and poke to get in a lot of aggressive damage. It was good. I was not able to posture break too many enemies in this game because of my, fairly conservative shielding playstyle. So, I don't know, I just wasn't able to. And because my spear, I think if I were playing with a greatsword, I think I would have staggered a lot more enemies and bosses. But the spear just wasn't really doing it, and I wasn't able to attack often enough because my stamina was split between attacking and rolling and running, and shielding. And shielding takes a lot of stamina, so it's just kind of like that. I feel like, yeah, again, if you want to play this game on hard mode, try it with shield and poke. Try it with shield and poke, because it is not that fucking easy. Fuck, I guess that's basically it. I'm 51 minutes into this second episode, so I guess I really did need 2 hours to do this review. So overall, graphics amazing. But again, for reasons previously stated, probably could have toned down the graphics 10 or 15%. Would have looked basically just as cool, and things would have been a little bit easier to see in some spots, and then also you could have just taken it a little easier on the game engine so it didn't miss so many fucking inputs. When I would hit dodge, it wouldn't come out, or hit attack and it wouldn't come out, and shit like that. Let me find somewhere beautiful looking so I can get a nice thumbnail for the very end of this. Let's go back to Irithyll, because Irithyll is just so fucking nice looking. Let's go here. Anor Londo, that's perfectly fitting. Music, not too much music in this game, but where it came in, like, I think there was a really cool theme during certain parts of Sister Friede. The theme playing, especially during the second part of the Soul of Cinder boss, great. The title music, great. The way they used sound design to help you hear where certain bosses were when they warped away, like Prince Lothian, like Aldrich, the Devourer of Gods that I fought up in there, like fucking Sister Friede. Great. Yeah, the sound design just in general, great in these games. Like, the sound effects are really cool. The ting that you hear when something dies, very recognizable. The warp sound, the souls retrieved sound, the backstab sound, very cool, or the critical hit sound, basically. You can always be listening to hear when there's enemies around a corner. Usually you can hear them groaning a bit. I love all that. So excellent on the part of that. Yeah, let's just get a really cool shot here. The lore, like the fact that they wrapped this game, really, I felt this is the game where they really, like, tied in the lore of Dark Souls all into one thing. Like, they what am I trying to say? They tied this game into the original Dark Souls and a little bit into Dark Souls 2 in a really cool way in this game. I felt like this one really made this feel like a one universe that has a bigger overarching story in it. That was really brilliant. Really fucking liked that. I'm just trying to get like a really cool looking shot here. I guess that's fairly cool looking with the moon and the sword and everything. Maybe like that. That's kind of cool. Oh, look at those moonbeams coming around the fucking sword. Like the hilt of that fucking coiled sword. Just by the by, here's the other theme I noticed in this game is spiraling and coiling, which I guess makes sense. The spiraling through time of this world, as history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, as the saying goes. History is not a cyclical circle, but a spiral. You know, you've got the coiled sword that you have to put in the first bonfire in the Firelink Shrine in order to activate the warp to be able to go to the High Wall of Lothric. All of the boss souls are called the Twisted Souls. So the other theme besides Ash and Cinder I found to be like spiraling and twisting, which I literally just clued into the fact that makes total sense when it comes to the spiraling nature of this world. Like, the cycle keeps repeating where the fire starts to fade, the Lords of Cinder get called, somebody comes to bring all of this Cinder Lord stuff together and links the fire. Very cool, very neat. And yeah, like, the exploration was fun. I wish the world was all interconnected the way it was in Dark Souls 1, but I'll give it credit for the fact that each individual area was interconnected, especially the human settlement areas like High Wall of Lothric, Lothric Castle, Cathedral of the Deep, Irithyll, certain parts of the Painted World, certain parts of the Ringed City, etc. So big points for that, but I wish the whole world was like, you can't walk from one end of this world to another like you can in Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2. Didn't love that. And yeah, just like the combat, I mean, all the elements are here. Certain regular enemies, like probably the favorite enemies of mine to fight in this game were like just some of the regular knights, like in High Wall of Lothric, the ones with the red capes, the Lothric Knights, and then eventually in Castle Lothric, and there's the one in the High Wall of Lothric that's a little mini boss, the even harder knights with the purple capes. In this area right here, the Silver Knights that are like a mainstay of these games, amazing. In the Untended Graves, the Black Knights, amazing. The Ringed Knights from the Ringed City, amazing. The Millwood Knights from the Painted World of Ariandel, really cool. Those were all my favorite enemies in the game, and then my favorite bosses were the humanoid ones too. Probably the best, like my favorites were probably Champion Gunder, although he wasn't that hard and didn't take that long, but for design, probably my favorite. Nameless King was really fun. Dragon Slayer Arma was really fun. Fucking Prince Lothian, just wanted to like him so bad. I did like him, but there was just so much frustration. Fucking Sister Frieda, again, like, really fun and interesting, especially the first and third phases. Second phase, just a lot of fucking chaos. A lot of neat ideas, cool gimmick bosses that weren't all just entirely gimmicky, but when I say gimmick, I mean like had a different approach you had to take, like the Ancient Wyvern, like Deacons of the Deep, like High Lord Wolnir, like Yorm the Giant. Liked all of that. Great variety of areas. Most areas looked really great. Again, the Undead Settlement just kind of got to look the samey, and I felt like I was like looking at a fucking Where's Waldo book eventually to figure out what the hell I was looking at, because it was just like brown grass and a bunch of brown buildings that all looked the same. The fucking Onion Knight was here. He was cool. Patches, that son of a bitch, stole his armor and fucked me over in the cathedral. That was hilarious. All in all, I mean, to give a number to this game, I don't know. See, this series of games is one of the series that revived actual difficulty and challenge in games. Back in 2009, when Demon's Souls first came out, difficulty in gaming was dying. Even in a lot of my favorite games, like Zelda games, like they were getting so brain dead easy, and they would just like spell out everything for you. There were so many invisible walls stopping you from exploring, stopping you from dying, even from falling off the edge of a fucking cliff or a bridge or something. You know, you'd walk into a room and the puzzle would be spelled out for you by your helper, like Navi or Tattle and Tail or whatever. This series is one of the better series in gaming. Gaming has gotten really bad with the hallway simulator games that are really just like more movie than game. Even Final Fantasy VII Remake was like that, which was very disappointing. That is the next Let's Play I'm doing, by the way. It's not a blind Let's Play, but I'm doing the original Final Fantasy VII, the good Final Fantasy VII. But yeah, so this game is maybe my least favorite so far. Although in Elden Ring, if I hadn't used a magic build in Elden Ring, I might feel the same way or worse about that one as I did in this game. Plus, I ground for levels in that game. But anyway, I got 10 seconds left. I got to finish this. So we'll say that this is one of the lesser entries in a pretty legendary, excellent game series. And that's it. Have a good day. Peace out.